back to Hobson's Choice Harleys. We're shifting gears from the knuckle a little this week. What we've done is, this is Softail Sally. We're going to show you some of the finished product on the paint job. I went to go on vacation last week to Arizona, camp for a few days and take a few frames to a buddy of mine out there. And the day before, I rode this all over, was ready. The morning I went to leave to load this on the trailer, I turned it on and the main fuel line orifice on the carburetor snapped off and pissed fuel everywhere. So needless to say, we got to put a new a new carburetor on this bike. So I have it sitting over there, but I want to get some pictures and show you all the custom pinstriping that we got done. My buddy Jesse did. Really came out nice. He's quite a craftsman. I gave him very little instruction. I told him I wanted black pinstriping and didn't want to cover too much. He really did a fabulous job. And she's all back together, and I've got about 100 miles on her. And then of course, Murphy's Law, the carburetor shit the bed and I got gas everywhere. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this air cleaner off. We're gonna pull that carburetor off. I'm sticking with the CV carburetor. And for right now, I'm just gonna stick a new one. And then at some point we'll have maybe a carburetor video or two. I've got 3 S&S Super E's and 2 of these CV carburetors that need to be gone through. So we might do a couple videos of carburation rebuild or going through these carbs. But for today, we're just going to take this off and see if we can bolt. I've got a brand new one I got off. I wasn't going to say, I bought it off J&P Cycles. So hopefully they get enough attention to me mentioning their name. They'll give me something for my trouble. It was just easier. I couldn't get a rebuild kit with the jets, and I was hoping to get this done right away. And of course that didn't work out. So I just bought a whole new carburetor and we're gonna go from there and see what happens. At least by buying the new carburetor, it came with a whole packet of jets. So I can just stick it on here and see what it does running wise with the factory jets. And if not, I can rejet it. So we're pulling the air cleaner off. Trying to be real careful because this again is what Jesse did with the pinstriping. I really don't want to beat that up. Stuff scattered from working on the knucklehead. I got stuff scattered from working on this. All right, so what we're doing, like I had said, is we're just going to replace this carburetor. This CV carburetor I had in a box, just laying here. I've had it for 6 months or so. Got it in a box of stuff really cheap, and it looked really clean. So my hope was the day I was getting ready to leave on vacation that I could just throw this carburetor on and still be able to ride side by side in Arizona. Unfortunately, when I put this carburetor on, she fired up, but she sputtered and popped. And like I said, I didn't have any jets for it, and she just wasn't running right. So we're going to just change it out and see what happens. And this has this EVO. And the EVOs have top head breathers, or this year did. So these bolts are actually hollow, and it vents crankcase pressure or top end pressure out of the top of the cylinder through those holes, and it comes back into this piece and vents into the carburetor. So what I'm gonna do, and I bought the piece, hopefully this all works together, is I bought the kit to eliminate this. It's a breather kit that goes up top. All right, so we're gonna set that there. Yeah, see, these two actually breathe from the top of the cylinder head. So we're gonna try and put this kit on. So this here is a breather kit that you put on like that, and it comes with hollow bolts like banjo bolts. So it will breathe through this tube, out this nipple, and then you just put an oil line from here down out to atmosphere. The other ones went through this block into here and would go back up into the carburetor, and you just kind of recycle it. I personally am trying to put this on there and just have it go down to the bottom. It's just a minor amount of oil. I don't care about reclaiming the oil. The rubber boots that were on it, so these were all blown out and they weren't sticking to the bolts, and I was getting blow by. So we're gonna try and clean it up, make it a little less ugly. So we got to figure out how this all goes together. And we've got all these different washers and spacers. So we got to figure that out. And then we got to figure this out. But let's loosen the throttle cable, get the carb off, and then we'll go from there. see if we can't get this choke. Again, I just used a couple chicken bands on this, trying to see if I could get it back on the road to no avail. So we'll get those out of there. There we go, so that's my choke line. And then we gotta loosen these throttle cables way up. So all I'm doing here is taking the tension off the cables. These are a push and a pull system. So one opens the carburetor, the other cable brings the carburetor back. So I have to loosen these up enough to get them off the carburetor down there. I think before our next video, I'm gonna spend a couple hours out here and clean up this absolute mess of a shop. I was working hard and heavy on the Survey car. I've been working insane on the knuckle, working on Sally here. My poor Jenny shovel is in the other garage, whining from the neglect. So right now we're down to 8 bikes. We did get rid of Miami Vice's frame and title. I did get rid of the 1980 FX frame, title, engine, transmission, and some of the other parts. So that took us from 11 to 9 bikes, and that's good. You know, we're trying to thin the herd a little. Had to recoup some money for the knuckle. I spent so much money on that knucklehead that I had to recoup some money for the bank and recoup some money for parts. That knuckle's got a lot of stuff it needs, and it ain't cheap. All right, so we got everything loosened there. Let's see if we can't get this carburetor easily off of here. So there's my choke cable. Come on, there we go. And then if I lay these like this, I can dump fuel all over myself, which is always fun. All right, so there's one. There's one. Okay, so there is another CV carburetor. So if you look here, it's got a brass nipple. This is the one I had sitting in a box. This is the one that was running on the bike, and the bike ran like a scalded dog. Look at that nipple. So it's plastic, and if you can see, it's split off there. When I first messed around with the bike, it had split there, but it wasn't leaking, and the hose was actually adhering to it. So I don't know, I've gotten probably 300 or 400 miles on that bike with that carburetor, with that valve the way it is, and she gave up the ghost. So these both need to be rebuilt. I need to do some research. I've heard from a couple people that that is factory pressed in and cannot be replaced. And if that's the case, this good running carburetor is really good for nothing. So I got to do some more research, got to look into rebuild kits, and just kind of go from there. I hope that it's rebuildable. I mean, them CV carburetors are known for being bulletproof, but if you can't rebuild it, it doesn't do you any good. So we did buy one brand new CV carburetor. All right, so we got the choke from that carburetor on. Now we gotta feed these throttle cables up in here. That should be our carb placement. Oh, I'm gonna pinch our fuel line right there where we can't get to it. And the choke. Go over there. All right, so that'll go there. Get that fuel line on there. And then we got to figure out this breather thing. Okay, there's that. Got to make sure we get these little sealing gaskets on everything. We're gonna go like so. And then we're gonna, let's see what that does for us. Yeah, so you can see the bolts used to be hollow, and it would breathe into this rubber thing, and the rubber thing would come down into this bracket. So basically we're doing away with all of that, and then we're just gonna take a hose from here. So any oil will bleed through this, through here, and then we'll just run it down below, as long as it's not hitting the rear wheel. And there really isn't like there's not quarts of oil or anything. It's very minimal amounts of oil there. Okay guys, so we're just playing with adjustments. We got the breather on there. So I started adjusting this, and the top of this was not up in its saddle. And I was almost out of threads, wondering how come the cable was so loose. Well, it's not up in its saddle. So let me loosen it back up, get it in its saddle like so. Okay, so now we ought to be able to take some of that slop out of there. Yeah, if you watch that cable, it might be hard to see, but it is getting tight. And we just want to bottom it out. Yep, we're close. So close is good for now. I just don't want it bouncing around on there sloppy until we get her in place. So let me get the back one snug down a little bit too. And really, you don't need to run both throttles. One is a return. A lot of times just the spring on the butterfly of the carburetor is enough to do what you need it to do. But the flip side of that also is you don't want your throttle to stick. A good buddy of mine was in Missouri, just got in an accident the other day because his throttle stuck wide open and he couldn't shut it down. So he ended up dumping the bike and going ass end over tea kettle. So kind of scary deal. All right, so both of the other ones I was running are threaded here and here, but I can't thread through that because there's no threads there. So that was for my backing plate, which my backing plate is all chewed to all hell. You know what? We're gonna leave this off right now. We're gonna figure this out, see if I can find a better backing plate. Yeah, so this was on the bike when I got it. I do need to find a way to run this air cleaner because that's my well done air cleaner. It's my pinstriped air cleaner anyway. I'm just trying to figure out which holes would be here and here. It might work just right there. All right, so what I did wrong is this has to be inside those bolts. All right, guys, so we're just playing some games with different brackets and stuff. I've got all these different brackets. I'm actually trying to eliminate this spacer block with the air on it, which means that the throw here has to be narrower. So yeah, even if I do that, it's not quite gonna work. And if I do this has got my neutral safety light on it, which is kind of cool. Okay, so we're gonna have to figure this out. So a lot of this is a learning curve for me on these EVOs. I've worked with shovels and pans and older stuff, so I'm not used to a CV carburetor. Definitely not used to this head breathing thing. So we gotta figure out a way to, boy, that would be tighter, wouldn't it? So that right there would get me away from it. Oh, I guess so would that one. Should be a lot cleaner setup if I can get her all to work out the way she's supposed to. I'll loosen that just a little. So what I'm trying to do here is make sure I've got room to get to those bolt holes. Of course, I can always back this off and play with it a little. So what I do have to still figure out is how to get that on there with the holes where I can get my air cleaner on there. And it's actually gonna give me a 1/2 inch closer, and it's gonna eliminate this whole rinky-dinky thing here. And I do still have to get a gasket behind there, but I don't know if you can tell, these holes are just not quite lining up, and it's gonna be almost impossible to get my hose in here. So I'm probably gonna have to rework this neutral safety light, which is really cool, I dig it. But we're sealed, should not have any intake leaks. I've got everything's hooked up, so we're gonna turn the fuel on and see if she'll fire up and see if that carburetor out of the box will run this machine. So fingers crossed, guys. And she hasn't been on a charger, so I'm hoping that she's ready to fire. All right, let's see what happens. I knew I should have had a battery charger on this beast. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, so we're gonna try, give her some juice. Oh, she got gas. She's cold. Hadn't even adjusted the air, fuel, nothing. Took her a minute to start, but once she started, she ran okay. Tried to get her warm enough I can turn the choke off and not asphyxiate myself in here. Go ahead and back her up a little bit just so we can get the fumes out into the outside. You guys made it to the end. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please kickstart that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, comment what you guys think. Let me know if you have any suggestions for video ideas or topics you guys want covered, and I'll do my best to include those in my next projects. You guys can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to check out the Beacons link in the description below. See you next time.